Welcome to the best gambling show on the internet. This is the home of the money pick. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Wildcard round, upsets to bet. Let's get this money. And listen, I had to dig deep for these, but I believe we have some. You're going to have to open your mind. You're going to have to flow with me. Let's get to the first game. We're going to Tampa. We got the Washington no-names at the Tampa Bay Bucs. Bucs -3, and I know you guys were shocked when I picked the Bucs on Tuesday's show. I think this will shock you even more. I'm going to bring this Bucs -3 to the -13.5, and I get why the Commanders are the popular bet. I was pretty much isolated this whole year, slinging money picks with them since week 3. I get it. Jaden Daniels is an absolute hero when it comes to playing quarterback, and his poise, confidence, moxie, athleticism is very difficult to match. And it's also difficult to quantify in a point spread. But I got to be honest, man. I think this is a nightmare matchup for the Commanders. I really do. That's why I think this could turn into a Bucs blowout. That's why I like the -13.5 plus 334. Now let's get into it. I've been telling you guys, I felt like the Commanders' defense was getting better around that week 9, week 10, week 11 mark. I think the worst unit in the NFL playoffs is their run defense. They just can't seem to get a handle on it. And we can talk about Baker Mayfield. We can talk about Mike Evans. We can talk about the top 5 offense that the Bucs have been the last 8 weeks of the regular season. But we need to talk about the physicality that the Bucs possess. This offensive line has been absolutely phenomenal this year, and the emergence of Bucky Irvin is what tilts this game in the Bucs factor. I think the Bucs are going to run the ball. I think they're going to get dirty with this Commanders front 7. And if Dowdle and the Cowboys' weak offensive line are pounding you in 2 meetings, it wasn't just the week 18 meeting. If they are pounding you, wait until Tristan Wirfs and these big bodies of the Bucs offensive line start laying on you. And then Baker Mayfield with the play action. I'm just not seeing the matchup opportunities for this Commanders defense. Sure, Lattimore's coming back to play. Great. He's played like only fucking 2 games since they traded for him. My problem with the Commanders, contrary to everyone else, contrary to ESPN, my problem with the Commanders isn't their secondary. It is this front 7, and they're just not good enough in the run fits, and I'm not seeing this problem being solved. On the other side of the ball, yes, they're going to need Jaden Daniels to play hero ball. And yes, I understand if you want to bet that. He's done that many times this year. He's put a lot of money in my pockets and helped my family. But I think this is too much to ask. It really is. The Bucs defense is vulnerable. They can't stop the pass. They play a lot of man-to-man. No one can cover man-to-man back there. Levante David trying to go man-to-man against tight ends. It's been an absolute joke. But the Commanders' wide receiving core is probably the worst in the league, even with Terry McLaurin there. They're really bad. Zacchaeus, Brown, McCaffrey, they're really bad. And you have Zach Ertz that has been emerging the second half of the year. But either way, man, what the Commanders want to do is run the ball up the middle. They want to get Brian Robinson going. They want to get the read option going. I don't think that's going to be viable. I think Daniels goes over his rushing yards, but I'm not sure Eckler or Brian Robinson get going in this game. If you've been watching the Commanders ever since week 7, every single week this offensive line gets a little bit worse, and then the last 4 weeks of the year, it's turning into a problem. They're not even getting a good push against Atlanta's front 7. Now you're playing probably the best run defense in the league outside of the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not seeing the rhythm, and I'm not seeing the magic coming from Cliff Kingsbury anymore. Listen, those play calling, those great game plans really dried up around week 9, week 10. So pretty much this is on Daniels to work magic, to play hero ball. I'm not liking this situation. I see a blowout potential. I could see this getting ugly. I'm laying the -13.5 with the Bucs, plus 334. Next game, we got got the Los Angeles Chargers at the Houston Texans. Texans +3. I knew I was going to be in the minority in this game. And I'm going to tell you, I don't have the strongest lean in the world in this game. Is that okay? Has any of us watched football before? We know there's 3 or 4 game scripts. We know there's multiple game states. And these games can go either way. They really can. And that's why I didn't get the outrage. And I'll just respond to a few comments. People are saying, Lawson, you suddenly think the Texans are going to start playing good going into this game. No, but I don't think they need to play necessarily great or good football to beat the Chargers. Even though we've won a ton of money betting the Chargers this year, their finish of the season hasn't been all that great. It really hasn't. And the Chargers' flaws are still evident. So I guess me even picking the Texans with the +3 is an upset. But I would move the alternative line and go Texans -3.5 +220. I think there's some serious factors here. Before I get into X's and O's and the schematics of the situation, bro, most of the Chargers players, their families are living in LA. And you see what is going on there. Everything's burning down. And it's hard to get those images outside of your head when you see a man and his dog locked in a house with flames ready to burn them alive and there's no way out. And then their families are in that situation. And you got to think that has some sort of factor that maybe gives the Texans an edge in this game, as sick and heinous as it is me saying that. But the schematics of the situation match up pretty good for the Texans in this game. It's just because they threw the ball to Quentin Jackson and he racked up stats and deep passes against the Raiders. Does that really change the big flaw of the Los Angeles Chargers? They haven't been able to run the ball in 10 weeks. And they're relying on receivers that can't get a lot of separation. And a lot of these guys are practice squad 4th, 5th wide receiver quality. And outside of McConkey, who else is going to get separation? Who else can Herbert throw the ball to on the road in a hostile situation? And no one's talking about the Texans' home road splits in this game. The Texans can play at home. They're a better home team, obviously. Most teams play better at home, but I think this is an underrated home field advantage in this game, especially with what's going on with those forest fires. I'm not even calling that forest fires. That shit's just ripping through the fucking city. So you look at this and it's are the Texans the only team that kind of slowed off near the end of the year? Have the Chargers played all that great? And I do think the Chargers and Harbaugh have their flaws. I do think this defense has been exposed. I know they made the big plays against Atlanta. I know they've had some really good games where they just completely controlled the opposing offense. But anytime they get up against an above-average offense, the above-average offense wins. And I don't have a lot of hope in the Texans offense. But one guy I have a lot of hope in is Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon is the X factor in this game, and I think he gets going. Like I said, I'm not saying this is a strong lean, but everyone's acting like they want to put their wife's wedding ring, the best bets to Chargers this week. I am just saying, proceed with caution, and this is someone who's ridden the Chargers this whole year. I got against them earlier in the year with the Steelers, and then we started riding them midway. We rid them against the Chiefs. I just want to get off this Chargers boat right now. The fire's coming. Next game! This is just food for thought. Please be mature. Next game! We got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. Listen, like I said, everyone be mature. And I was thinking about this game last night when I was thinking about, well, what are we going to do for the upset video? I'm kind of worried about the Ravens this game. And I would not lay points with the Ravens firstly in this game. Zay Flowers is going to miss this game. And that is a big loss for the Ravens. I think Zay Flowers is top 15 receiver in this league. Thirdly, I've seen Lamar Jackson struggle in these high leverage situations. One thing that made the podcast big was when I picked the Titans money line when Ravens were laying 6 against them early in the Vrabel era. I don't know if I trust Todd Monken, the Ravens offense coordinator. That's why I'm not betting this, and I'm not telling anyone to bet this. I'm not laying points with the Ravens. I'm not going +9 with the Steelers. But I think the only bet I would probably do in this game is Steelers money line plus 390. And I think there's a game flow. I believe there's a game state where this game can go and tilt to the Steelers' advantage. I mentioned Zay Flowers, man, and I think he's important in this game because without him, it's going to be Joey Porter Jr. matched up against Rashad Bateman. And who do you think is going to win that battle? And what other receivers, what other options do the Ravens have? We know what the Steelers are going to do. They're going to play man-to-man, and they're going to challenge these Ravens wide receivers. And one thing you have to do whenever you analyze and dive into the schematics of a Ravens game, one thing you have to analyze, and it has to be at the forefront of your brain, is can they contain Lamar? How do they play against scrambling quarterbacks? And that's one thing we know about the Steelers. They're disciplined. They keep him in the pocket. And we've simply not seen the best of Lamar Jackson when he's in these situations. Like I said, I'm not like jumping to bet the Steelers +9, but you saw why the Ravens weren't a money pick on Tuesday. The more I think about this, the more I think this is a bad spot. No, I'm not saying Russell Wilson's going to play good at all. I'm not. I think George Pickens checked out 2 weeks ago. I'm not saying anything along these lines. But with Monken, sometimes he gets too pass happy. Sometimes we see Lamar Jackson not giving the ball to Derrick Henry, not giving the ball to the running back in previous years, and you just don't understand why. I like the under in Lamar Jackson's passing yards in this game, so check out the player prop show. But I think this is going to be a struggle session, and I think there is a game flow where the Steelers can have this game in their grasp, and they can take it. I didn't want to go to the old Ravens Steelers are ugly games, but they are. And Mike Tomlin knows how to contain Lamar Jackson. He does seem to have a way about him. That's why I said I'm not betting this game either way. But if I had to lay a bet, I would go Steelers money line +390. And I don't want to see Russell Wilson get credit, but I think we're going to see a lot of Justin Fields, and I think the Steelers are going to have something planned up their sleeve. And maybe this is the banana, maybe this is the Ravens just choking in the playoffs again, like we've seen. I've said many times this year, it has to be the Ravens this year, right, lads? Let's see. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you share the videos. The best gambling show on the internet. We're sweating here. We're ready for the fucking playoffs.